Okay, cool. Would have been tragedy if I had forgotten to record this. So yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk through building an ORM. We're gonna start off being able to persist data to our database and retrieve that data to output to our users. And then if we have time, maybe like do some other things like a find method or like a delete method. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Great. And so what we have here is just like a simple CLI app. If we run, I don't know if this has executable permission, but we'll see. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, so then we'll just do ruby bin run.rb. And so when we run the CLI, it's taking just a little bit of a while. My system's been really slow today, very odd. And just to give you guys like a little synopsis of what this is it's a tweets CLI, just like a very basic Twitter copycat. So like the first thing you get prompted to is enter username. So we'll say Blackwell, enter a message, hey there, and it outputs the username as well as what they said. The only problem with that is, as you can see, it kicked me out of my CLI. And if I run it again and I say, Jenny says hello back, what you'll see here is that it's just going to return what I just input into it, because everything that was created before it exited the program is now gone because it hasn't been persisted anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to avoid that by persisting the data so that even if I exit the program and I come back into it, it at least has all the previous tweets. Let's talk a little bit about ORM before we continue on. What does ORM stand for?
I don't remember.
Ordered something mapping?
Mapping is correct. You got the N.
Object relation mapping.
Object relation mapping, yes. Okay. Exactly. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Let's think about what we're doing here. We have a class and we have a database. What exactly are we doing with the two?
Okay, so you have your table and you're basically connecting the table with the attributes in your class.
Right.
So you're lining them up, vice versa, going back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. We're just like it says, the name object relational mapping, what we're doing is we are taking data in our database and we're mapping them out to our objects, to our classes, so that we can use them in those instances. Great. Why do we want to map? Why do we want to use ORM?
Because Ruby doesn't keep the information.
Right, exactly, yeah. So there's no persistence. That's definitely a good reason. Another good reason is that building an ORM helps avoid repetition, right? If you only have one save method that persists your data into the database, now every time you save an instance, you don't have to push it into the database as well. You can just call upon that save method and it does it for you. So it helps It helps avoid code repetition as well.
Okay.
Cool.
So it kind of does the insert into without having to write the insert into 10 times or 20 or 100 times or a million times.
Exactly, yeah.
It just does it.
Right. Cool. So we have our CLI here that is called upon execution. This is a lot similar to your guys' CLI projects that you did. So it initializes a new tweets app, and then it calls the call method on that instance. And when that's called, as we saw, it prompts our user, lets them know like, hey, welcome, and then enter your username, enter a message. Then it creates a new instance of tweet with the given username and message. And
okay, can I stop you right here for a second?
sure.
This has got me really confused about the keyword arguments and regular arguments. Like, obviously, that's a keyword
Right.
argument in a hash. So, can we talk about? I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just would like
I'm
some.
super confused about that too, so I would love to know.
Like, when is it appropriate? When it's not? Like, why does it have to be? Why sometimes you can just put in the value of whatever the attribute is, and sometimes you have to have the keyword to put in that attribute value. Like, I don't understand.
Like, why are we using the key value concept here?
Why are we using the key value concept there? Yes, that's a good.
Okay. Good question. Yeah. So we're initializing a new tweet. If we go back to our tweet class and we look at our initialize method, we are initializing with a hash.
Okay.
So this is why. We could initialize the regular way and then change these to message and username. And that would be the same thing. But in this case, it looks like they're looking to initialize as a hash.
So what? I guess what's the benefit? Is there a benefit to doing it a different way? Like, why are there all these different ways to get the arguments through? And when is it appropriate to do it one way, and when is it appropriate to do it another?
That's a good question. Let me get back to you on that one.
Okay.
I'll have to look into it myself a little bit because that was never really like a question of mine. So yeah, I'll look into it and then I will let you guys know what I find.
Okay. Awesome.
But
I don't want to interrupt you anymore.
No, please do. I love these questions. Anytime you have questions, please interrupt away.
Okay.
But you know, to answer your question in the most basic manner, as to why we're initializing this way is because our initialize method is set up that way.
Okay. That's cool. That works. Right.
And I'll find out the benefit of this versus the way that we're used to initializing for you guys and let you guys know.
Okay.
Great. So our call method is then gathering all of the tweets and rendering them out. And if we take a look at our render method, it looks like it's rendering each one out with an index, which is what we saw when we ran it. So some of our goals, and we can go ahead and we can pseudocode here. Our goal is to persist the tweets so that when we exit the program and we jump back in, we still have that data. It doesn't get wiped out because there's no memory on it. So persist the tweets and then render the tweets to user. And that'll probably happen in this self.all, since this is calling everything. Okay. All right. So to persist the tweets, what we're going to do is we're going to create a save method. And it's going to be an instance method because, and this will make sense a little bit further along the line, but when we grab the data, or when we create the data, right, when we create the tweet here, we're creating a new instance. And so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to call the save method on this new instance so that we persist it. So I think it's safe to say, like, here we can say tweet.save so that it invokes that save method after it's been initialized. All right. So the goal here is to persist the tweet to database. I guess we can get rid of this. And we'll definitely have to do this with some SQL. So we'll name a variable SQL, and we'll create a SQL statement that basically does this, or basically executes this behavior. Whenever we want to enter something into the database, what is the SQL keyword that we use?
Insert into.
Perfect. Insert into. And our table is called tweets. So what we can do is we can kind of just check out our table a little bit. Cool. So we have our tweets table, and in our tweets table, we have columns ID, username, and message. So we'll want to insert into tweets, username, and message. And then what else?
Value.
Okay. What are these question marks here?
Well, we don't have the values right now.
Okay. What else? What are these question marks behaving as?
They're kind of like placeholders for when we run the DB con.
Yeah.
And then we can put, when we run that, we can put in the values.
Why do we use placeholders? Why can't I just insert the values here?
Because it's two different types of code.
It's two different types of code. Can you elaborate on that? What type of data type is this?
A string?
A string. So what happens if I was to do what would this be read as inside of a string?
Self-username.
I just wouldn't understand it.
Right, exactly. Hey, Kelsey, thank you for joining.
Hey, yeah, of course.
It would read it, Jenny said it would read it just as self.username. We could interpolate it. We could use interpolation. That would work. Oops. But while this would work, now we're getting into some security issue. And I'm not well versed on it, but what it's called is SQL injection. And it's a security issue pertaining to your database. So what this does is it basically helps, and you guys will become more familiar with this term as you guys move forward in Active Record, but it helps ensure whitelisting, which is some form of validating your data, to avoid any incorrect data or possibly any dangerous data from being persisted into your database. Cool. So yeah, so we're inserting into our tweets table in the columns username and message, and our values right now are unknown. So now I need to execute this SQL on my database. What we've been typically used to is passing in the database to methods and then just calling the execute on that, right? So like if I had this, then I would do db.execute. In this case, we're not passing the database here as an argument. I want to point out, if you go to the config environment file, you'll notice this db constant that points to the value of a key value pair, the key being con, which is short for connection. This key can be anything. You can name it anything you would like. You just have to make sure that you stay consistent by calling this. So we could say like db connection, and then we would just have to make sure that we like fixed all of this, but we're lazy, so we're going to keep it four letters. And this key, what it points to is a new instance of our database, and we're passing in our database to this new instance so that it's initialized. And since it's in our environment file, it's now available to our entire application. And to refer to this database, you would just call the constant and then list the key, and now you can call the execute function on it. And we'll pass in our SQL, and then we'll pass in our values for username and message. Any questions up to this point? I know that was like a bit much. Does this part make sense?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Cool. Whenever you guys have a chance, I would definitely recommend looking at the database class, just so you guys are a little bit familiar, because like this is an attribute of the database class. It would be helpful if you guys just knew like what this was doing, but we won't get into that right now. Great. So, okay, cool. So now I'm executing on my database. I'm passing in my SQL. I need to pass in my values for username and message. What would my values be?
Tweets.message.
Tweets.message would be like the instance and its message. The dot message is right, but who would I call the dot message on? Remember, this is an instance method.
Self.
Self, yeah. So we can say self.username and self.message, because self will refer to the instance that the save method is being called on. Cool. I think that takes care of the save method. Let me. So if we ran this again, and now I say Penny says, I love ORM. Oh.
Which means snake in Swedish, by the way.
Okay, so we're getting an undefined method each for our render method. Let's take a look at what's going on here. All right. So tweets is coming up as as nothing, right? And that makes sense because tweet.all is invoking this method, and we really don't have anything in there because our save method does not add anything to our all array. So that makes sense why that's not working. So now we need to fix this. And what we want to do in this method is we want to grab the tweets that we just added to our database and create a new instant of our tweet class with that information so that our tweet class knows about its tweets. So we're gonna have to do some SQL again. Oh, and I wonder what if I want to return something from my database, what is the keyword that I use in SQL?
Select.
Yeah. Select. We'll go ahead and we'll select all from our tweets. Let's throw a pry here and see if that returns. Oop, what am I missing? Oh, I see. I need to execute it. That's right. And so we'll just pass in the SQL. We'll store this in results. We'll throw our binding.py after this, and we'll say, great, okay. So now it's returning everything. And it's, as you can see, it's returning more than one because our data has been persisted to the database. So our save method is working exactly like we want it to, which is great. We just need to make sure that we can render that out to our user. So now what we need to do is we need to create a new instance of tweet, and we'll call this tweets equals tweet.new. And we'll kind of copy the same pattern here. Where we use, can anybody tell me what the value of this key would be?
Username?
Right, yeah, but I guess what we would want is, let's see what result.
Oh. Like 0? No. 1.
You mean like, no.
Mm.
Anybody want to chime in here?
You wouldn't put it in you wouldn't put results and then brackets and then whatever the index is in it?
So like
Results.
1. Right? No.
like that?
Just like 1.
But not with the username.
Why not with the username?
Just results in brackets with one. No,
I wonder if
username
that.
equal or
I wonder if we can just pass the results to it just like that without specifying. Line 13. We're selecting all. What's going on here? We're selecting all of our tweets, executing that. Our result is we saw an array of hashes. So what exactly is going on here?
so are we trying to find like the ID and the username and the message from the results right now?
Right.
Isn't that how we do it? ID equals results and then the
I'll give you remote control. Why don't you give it a go? Because I'm not quite understanding
yeah.
what you're suggesting. Oh, why is my remote control not working? Can you request remote control on your end?
I don't know.
It should be in your Zoom bar up at the top. Okay, go ahead.
Like up here. That's what I was thinking.
But we don't initialize a tweet with an ID, so why would we need the ID?
Oh, let's do the other one. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. I have no idea if that's right.
Okay. The only thing is that these are keys, so we'll have to use this format.
Oh.
I just want to make sure that this is returning what we want. So let me see if I can put the pry like this.
Should it be two sets of brackets? Because it's in the array, it's like that's the first, or that's index 0 is the first one, right? So, and then
Yeah, then you would have to do 2 brackets.
Okay, Blackwell, why don't you take over, request remote control, and do what you're suggesting?
requesting remote control. Wait, what is that?
There you go.
What's going on here? All right. What's it doing here? So that way we got the first hash, and then we're getting the this first and the second index in the hash.
Okay, let's see what our price says. All right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Woo!
Cool. So yeah, I just wonder why it's creating like this weird space.
Mm.
I wonder. No, it's still creating it. That's fine. We won't worry about that too much right now. All right, cool.
I
So,
guess I learned something.
yeah. Okay, so I guess we don't need this all array anymore. And since we don't have that anymore, we don't need that either. So we're creating this new instance. Let's think, what else do we have to do here to put this out to our users? We're gonna need to iterate over some type of array. So I guess let's do this. And we'll do insert into tweet username message values ISON hello. And then let's see, select all from tweets. Oh. All right, so we have a few things going on. So if we quit here, let's hit our try again.
So would we do like dot map over select all from tweets?
Yeah, I think what we want to do is we actually want to map over results, right? And then pass in each instance to this. And then let's actually comment this out right now. And let's close that off. And let's see what tweet returns. It's not recognizing it. Why is it not recognizing it? We're seeing results, cry right there. Maybe it's because we ran it without. There we go. Okay. Yeah, this makes a lot more sense because now instead of doing this double bracket, what we can do is we can say or tweet username Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. You write it out and then I'll explain it.
So the hash is called tweet.
Yes. So our results is returning an array of hashes, right? We saw that when we queried it. It's an array of hashes. Each hash is each tweet. We're mapping over this, which gives us each isolated tweet. We're then using the data from this tweet to create a new instance of our tweet class with a given username and the given message.
Okay.
I don't remember what, why can't you do tweet dot username? Is that because it's a hash?
It's a hash, yeah. Yeah. So we'll have to use the bracket notation.
Because but you could use, if tweet was the instance, you could use tweet.username.
Right, exactly. Exactly. But in this case, since we're using a variable as a placeholder, it's not the exact name of the hash. So we're going to have to use bracket notation. Because remember, dot notation is only used when you know the exact name of the properties that you're using. All right.
I never know the names.
I took out my prize, so now if we run it, cool. So what we're seeing now is we have all of our data returning, not just the one, even though it exits me out of the program. If I go back into it and I create, what should we say? What do you want to say, Blackwell?
Or ORM is really organized.
It is pretty organized. Cool. So it returns everything again that we've persisted to the database along with our new tweet. So we're actually saving our data now, which is great. Cool. Any questions up to this point? All right. What if, let's like kind of venture out and let's say, what if I wanted to delete something?
I just delete one row.
Yeah, like delete one of these tweets.
In case you didn't mean what you said. Like ORM is really organized.
How would we go about that?
You could do like, is there a delete SQL command?
That's a good question. Let's look it up.
Or you could do like delete all from
There is a delete statement.
delete from table where ID equals or where
Right.
message equals.
You just said a keyword there, ID. But right now, the way that we've got this set up, there is no ID. So
But if it's in SQL, isn't it? If we're in SQL, we have an ID.
exactly. But remember, SQL isn't necessarily our class. So we need to structure our class now to bring out that ID. And what we're going to do is we're going to add an adder reader. Can anyone tell me why I want to use an adder reader instead of an adder accessor for an ID?
Because you never want to change the ID.
Exactly. We don't want to change the ID. So we'll just make it readable. And then we'll initialize an ID property and set it equal to, I believe. I could be wrong, but we'll see. All right. And so we're going to have to execute some SQL here again. And we saw delete from tweets where ID equals. That looks pretty good to me. And then we'll execute this in our database. Whoops. What are we going to use as the value for ID?
We need an argument in our delete method, don't we?
Yes, we do. Good catch. We want to make sure that we pass it the ID, right?
Yeah.
So then what would our value for this be?
Just a question mark.
Right. But when I execute the SQL, what would I enter in as the value?
ID.
ID, the ID that's being passed into the method. All right. That looks pretty good. I want to test this out. So let's do rate console. And that always just takes like a second. And I guess like what we need to do is first find the tweet. So tweet equals tweet dot.
I have a question. Is rate console just like a pry on the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll become really familiar with the.
I like that.
Oh man, it's just escaping me how we would. I guess what we need to do here is maybe create like a find by. Find by ID and pass in an ID. And then create like a SQL statement where we're going to select all from our tweets table where ID equals, and then execute that and pass in the ID. So then we'll probably have to, and then jump back in. And now we can say tweet equals tweet dot. Oh, this should be a class method. I'm curious if that'll register the changes. And let's see what. Oh yeah, it's not going to register. Okay. Oops. I'll just go ahead and copy this again. All right, so that did not return. Let's do tweet dot all. Oh, there are IDs.
Hmm.
Why?
Because we didn't set it in the new tweet not new.
Like here?
Yeah, because we added the add a reader ID and then we added it in the initialize, but it's not there.
So like you're saying we should probably do like tweet.id.
That's my guess. My best guess.
All right, let's give it a go. Let's do exit. That's a good guess.
Nice.
Very nice. Cool. So now if we go back to our find by, still returning, that's because I don't have a ID of 1. So we'll say 8. All right, cool. So we've got a find by ID method now working. And now that I've found that, if I go tweet.delete,
We need an argument on it.
yeah. So I don't think we need, I wonder if you can just do like self.id. Let's try this again. And then tweet.delete. Did I save it? I did. But it's still saying it expects an argument. But I did save the changes.
Well, how does it know which one it is? How is delete gonna know?
Which one it is?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're finding the instance with this find by and storing it inside tweet. And
Okay. Oh, okay. I see.
is now self, right? So we're inserting self.id. But oh, I see. I wonder if it's, yeah. Because I keep getting mixed up on those hashes. All right, so let's do this again. See if it works.
Oh my gosh. So this is totally where I've been getting confused.
Which
Is
part?
just what you just did, what we did with the self, and then we put the ID in the brackets, like.
And hashes.
Well, let's look at what self is if we throw a pry. Where would I want to throw a pry here? Well, actually, maybe if I just do okay, so that's not returning anything. So that wouldn't work anyways. But if we do tweet.id, no. Oops. All right. I'm thinking here. What are we missing?
So why is it not good to, or does it not work to put an argument after delete?
Like an ID?
Yeah.
We could, but then if we want to call it on the instance, why would we pass in the ID if we're calling it on the instance?
Mm.
Because then if tweet was our instance, we would say tweet.delete and then give tweets ID. That kind of doesn't make sense.
Right, because tweet is already set to something.
Right.
It's already I get what, an object.
But I guess we know this is working because we do tweet equals tweet dot find by ID and we're doing 8. All right. So what we need to do is figure out what we need to pass in here to execute this query correctly so that it deletes it. So tweet, okay. I'm curious. Oops. Ah. And then,
Because we're now we're in the hash.
yeah. So what we can do is self ID.
Oh, man.
But I wonder if there's a cleaner way of doing that. Give me just a second. Thank you. Sorry about that. I wonder if there's a better way of doing this. Maybe like here, just grabbing the first one. And then just doing self.id. Or let's see. Let's give it a go. See what we get. Nope. All right, we've got 2 minutes. I'll figure this out and I'll put it in the Slack channel just because now I'm a little curious.
What's when you had the 0 in the brackets over by the self, did it work?
Let's try it.
Did we even?
Nope. I don't know why we keep getting that wrong number of arguments error. Okay, I'll look further into this. But the most important takeaway is the save, how to persist it, and how to render it out to the users. Any questions before I let you guys go?
Well, this was.
No.
Was this helpful?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Did you record the one that you did earlier today too?
Yes, I did. All study groups are always recorded.
Yeah.
All right. I will figure out the delete method and I'll let you guys know because I'm a little curious now what we were doing wrong. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.